Let's make something. So what I've done today is I've dragged in a melody loop that I made. I don't know how long ago I made this, but I made it and I pitched it down to semitones. So let's listen to it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do with this is throw it on the mixer channel and throw an EQ on it because I hear some frequency I kind of want to take down a little bit. Actually, what I'm going to try doing, I might come back to this. Something I've been doing recently is with my melodies, if I notice that there's like a harsh frequency, like there are a bunch of things you can do to combat that. You can just throw an EQ on it, like I just was doing. Another thing you can do is use a dynamic EQ, which like changes based on the signal that's coming in. And another thing you can do is this. So if you open up an instance of Patcher, there are a bunch of presets in here, and a lot of these are super awesome and super useful. And the super awesome and super useful one I'm going to be using right now is called Midside EQ. And the reason why is because sometimes you have some frequencies that are coming into a sound that are only coming in on the middle channel or only coming in on the side channels. And so sometimes you can just take out the frequency in the correct place and you'll do less to hurt the character of the sound while also taking away some harshness. 1959. So let me find that over here. So you'll notice this is a lot less harsh on the side signal than it is in the middle signal. So what I might actually do, what I might do is just take this, EQ this out in the middle part of the signal. So let me just do that. Then maybe we can duck it down a little bit more around it. I don't want to move that too far away from there. Okay, so let's hear it before and after. It's a little bit less harsh. And then if we want, we can take away this signal a little bit altogether, just to really make sure, because that is a pretty harsh frequency. So I'm using both in this case. I'm taking away this signal a little bit just in general, and then I'm going into the mid-side EQ, and I'm really taking it out of the middle. And then on the side EQ, I'm taking it out just a little tiny bit. Then I'm boosting some other frequencies as well. I'm not sure exactly what pattern I want yet. But I do know I'm in G minor. So let me find G minor. Maybe we can go down. Ooh, what if it like... Seems a bit busy. This will probably still be busy too. Actually, that kind of worked. Maybe we can do that on both of these. Ooh, I think I want to do two different 808 patterns. So like one that's like thumpy and aggressive and hitting all the time like this one. And then I want one where it's like spaced out. could do both 808s actually. It's just not the right sound. I don't know if I have the right 808 that I want. Let me see if I can like do some things to this 808 to make it sound the way I want it to. Let's try some distortion. Let's see. Might do some like, let's turn the compressor off. So all I've done with Maximus is I've taken the low part of the 808 and merged it, and then I also threw some saturation on just the low portion. And then on all of these sections, I've got the compressor turned off. And then on the high section, I've got everything separated. I might separate a little bit less. And let's look and see. Yeah, I think I want to add a kick because this 808 doesn't have a like the not the Zay, but the 808 that I made doesn't really have like a kick or an impact at the beginning of it. So I kind of want something that has that punch. One thing you should always do when you're layering sounds is check the phase. So if you just isolate the two sounds that are layered on top of each other, and then if you take this little thing, reverse polarity, and you flip the polarity of one of them, you can make a big difference in what the sound sounds like. Like this sounds hollow and like just not punchy, whereas that's like coming through. You can really hear the low end on this. And the reason for that is because the way that the waveforms are lining up when they're stacked on top of each other, they're adding to each other. Whereas if I reverse the polarity of one, a lot of these signals are like canceling each other out because they're layered like opposite each other. So it's just not as punchy. So the kick wasn't hitting quite hard enough, so I threw a compressor on it. And I'm a very visual person, so oftentimes when I use this compressor, I throw on an instance of Fruity Limiter just so I can see what I'm doing with it. And I feel like it helps me. I don't know, I seem to mix and master and do things a lot with my eyes, which a lot of people say is a bad thing. But like I said, I'm a visual person, so like if something doesn't have a visual to go along with it, I'm much less likely to gravitate towards it just because it's less, it's not as easy for me to understand because there isn't a visual. So if you're that kind of person, I would recommend doing this same thing. Like pull up instances of Fruity Limiter or Maximus or whatever, something that shows you the waveform and like what it looks like, and then put whatever you're trying to do to the sound before that so that you can mess around with, in this case, the compressor, and you can see actually like what's going on with the sound. So one thing I noticed was when the attack was kind of high, like this, it keeps the sound a little bit thicker because the compressor isn't like chopping off the sound super quickly. Whereas if you make the attack really short, and the release a little bit long, it makes the sound a little bit stickier, like skinnier. And it's gonna like poke out more, and that is useful for things. But in this case, I want my kick to be like thick and punchy, like that. And obviously, we can hear a difference, but sometimes subtle differences in sound are harder to perceive than they are like visually. So, oh, and another thing was sometimes you can just play around with knobs and see how it affects the sound. So I got it to where I wanted it with these other settings, and then after that I just messed with the type. So I went through like soft, medium, vintage, hard, and hard was the one that gave me the best sound that I liked the best. So I went with that. So. I don't normally do this, but I'm using two different sounds for both halves of my main clap or snare, and I'm just alternating between sounds basically on my like main snare. Let me boost this one up because it's kind of quiet. So it's like a higher, brighter sound, and then it's like a darker sound. I'm just gonna alter. Ooh, what if I pitch this down? This may sound terrible, but I'm gonna try it. That's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. Yeah, I think I want to layer a sound with both of these main snares, just to make them sound a little bit more like there. So I am gonna put like the same sound on every main snare, just to layer it with those two. Kind of want to do a really slow pattern, so I might. There we go. Like where I normally would put this is like here or right there. That might sound better. Do that often. And then I want this to kind of go back and forth from left to right. So I want this to be a bit less like pointed. So I'm going to take out a little bit of like what's making it poke through, like these harsh frequencies. I don't always recommend doing this because you're going to take out a lot of the characteristic of the sound. In this specific case though, like I didn't want this sound really poking through. Like I want it to be more of a background noise, which is why I'm doing this. But doing this is going to take character away from whatever sound you're doing this to. In this case, that's what I want. Blessings Crash is the greatest. Okay, this sounds strange, but I think I want to add a guitar to this. Something like repetitive up top, or maybe in the mid-range. Let me listen for a second. Dun, na, 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 na. This almost works. So maybe this. Well, what if I like flipped that? There we go. Moved them up 7. But then these aren't in key. So move it down. Ooh! What was that? I am on a roll. What the hell? Okay, let's copy this over. Okay, so I think I want this to be like heavily chorused, delayed, like lots of effects basically. And I want to put it kind of in the background. I also want the second half to be slightly different. So maybe we can do some flavor, like flavor notes, like and I want that idea to be like underneath everything. So I'm gonna make those quieter. Okay, because this is a guitar, I'm gonna randomize the velocities of everything, and then I'm gonna go through and randomize the time. So I'm gonna like highlight some of these kind of seemingly randomly, and then I'm gonna move them back, and then I'll unhighlight some and move them back, blah blah blah. And that's just to make it seem more like a person played it, because like when people play, they don't play perfectly quantized like this. Like you see how these are all perfectly on the grid? People don't play like that. People make slight inaccuracies and errors and mistakes, and sometimes they're not mistakes. Sometimes it's for, accents and flavor and that sort of thing. So, um, yeah, if you have an instrument or like a melody that you're creating and it comes from an instrument that people typically play by hand, sometimes it's a good idea to make it sound more human and less robotic. Not always, but sometimes. Although, now that I'm hearing it all together again, kind of sounds like it's too low compared to the melody I already have, because this one's pretty low. So what I might do is just kind of arbitrarily take the bottom half of these notes and bring them up. And bring down. So I think what I'm going to do now is make it kind of put some effects on it, and then also some of the effects I'm going to be adding are going to give it the added effect of like pushing it back behind it, things. So I've got some delay on it. So now it doesn't sound like it's as forward. There's more going on down here. Not too much more, but it does have more, so I'm going to separate this one. I think that's more or less it for this video. There are plenty of more things I could do to this as far as mixing and mastering goes. I could, well, what I normally would do is take the drums and put them on their own mixer channels and like route them to different things. So like I would take my hi-hats and I would route them to the same, and then I've got a little preset that I use for hi-hats, which just adds a little distortion, stuff like this. And I'll do the same thing for all the drum sounds, and then I'll not consolidate. I'll route all of the melodies to the same place and do different things. So there are more things I could do with this, but for the purposes of this video, this is more or less the majority of what you're going to hear in the finished beat. So let's listen back to it a couple of times, and then that'll be it.